Cherie. I'm currently studying at the Inspire College Fitness Academy. I've been here for about 3 going on 4 weeks. I previously was doing online course, Cert 3, and basically what I've learned through Inspire Academy is nothing compared to what I didn't learn online. I actually know groups of muscles, I know the names for them. The tutors are fantastic. We do a lot of theory and a lot of practical. So if you really want to come and study, definitely come down and join the team. Come and see Jason and John, awesome tutors. What more can I say?